Well, here we are again. Bonsoir, monsieur. Have you spoken, Beryl?
Yes.
Wonderful. Is this our last evening?
Yes.
Oh, for goodness sake. Dear, oh dear. Well, have we found some degree of clarity? Or is all even greater confusion? You're here too. My goodness me. What an international scene this is. So, what should we talk about? What do you think? Why are you looking mischievous?
I've been told I mustn't ask any questions.
Sorry, Mick?
I've been told I mustn't ask any questions tonight because it went on too long.
Could I just say that after having 3 terms of doing yoga only, and coming here today, I feel I've been given the elixir of life. I haven't got my dowager's hump that I was walking around with. My back and neck feel very strong now, and my horror thanks me very much.
Oh, good. Get that put in writing, will you, Beryl? So, what else? Well, tell you what, we could set ourselves a limit, couldn't we? We could say, we must have a cup of tea before 10 o'clock. Is that right? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, carry on, Dan.
Can you, as we go through life, we often get hurt and experience a great deal of pain because of circumstance, because of other people that we care for. Is there anything that we can look to in yoga, particularly, to help us with, I'm talking about pain of the heart. I'm looking for not more practical things. I think I know some forms help me with the exquisite pain at times, but I'm always looking for more.
Anything else?
I find it difficult to follow that question because it's so profound. I was also going to ask for your comments on what you observe about faith from an agnostic point of view, but I've actually put that aside because today I was taken by the notion, and you constantly say it, make yourself aware of your breath, for example, in the hara, or between your eyes. And I wonder where we are supposed to be during that. Are we an observer who sees ourselves breathing, or are we in the breath?
You know, officially, when Beryl and I start rationalising about dates and retreats, we approach this week with the expectation it'll be nice, simple, easy, straightforward, and nothing too demanding. All round. But of course everything changes according to the consciousness of those who are present. And what arises in a discussion of this kind is inevitably the result of our group consciousness, isn't it? And consciousness is what? What is consciousness? We throw these words around. What is consciousness? What is our consciousness? What are we? What is a human being? What is the self? How does it function? There are many models. Many models. There are ancient Chinese models. There are ancient Hindu models. Ancient Greek models. Ancient Egyptian models. None of them is the truth. None of them can be the truth. Because inevitably, they are all the process, all the result of an inevitable filtering exercise that as a reflex our thought mechanism must engage in. In the first place, to explain ourselves to ourselves. In the second place, to explain our perceptions or our very filtered version of our perceptions to the environment we live in. How do we present ourselves? How do we justify ourselves? Now, what does this all amount to? I'm sure there can be very complex ways of reflecting on all this. I'm equally sure there can be very simple ways of reflecting on it. Either way, in an extreme, may leave us more confused than when we started. Extreme simplicity is very baffling. And extreme elaboration is an overload. It's not what is relevant to any given moment. Now, from that, there arises another question. What is relevant? Linked with that, there is another question, virtually the same question. What is wisdom? Wisdom is the perception of the relevant. Wisdom per se is not a profound concept we find in some ancient text, no matter how revered that text may be. Wisdom is what arises in the here and now, that is relevant, that is revelatory to our consciousness. Now, the ancient texts, the old parables, the old stories, may have within them seeds which are also present in our own psyche in some way, at some level. The seed of light, the seed of wisdom, is present in every human entity. That seed of light will cast its own ray, will make its own impression, will shed its own radiance, however subtly. Wisdom, in a certain sense, if we're looking for a moment at the old texts, is that seed present in the ancient tale or the ancient image, linking with that seed of light which is in ourselves, and finding a oneness through the interaction of the creative inspiration which is common to both and common to all truly revelatory experiences. Are you with me? Does that make sense? Has that made sense so far? What am I saying? What are we looking for? Who's doing the looking? We may say we're seeking wisdom. We're seeking inspiration. Really, what does it mean? First of all, surely, we are confused. We must first of all acknowledge we are confused. Now that is not, per se, a bad thing. the recognition of our own confusion is a marvellous beginning. Implicit in it is don't know. Implicit in it is the healthy agnosticism. We will not get very far if we commence our quest for insight by saying, as a first step, I know. I know what the true hypothesis is. I know what the right approach is. I know what the best doctrine is. A doctrine is misnamed if it is called faith. No doctrine is faith. Within a doctrine, within a poem, within any great work of art, within the utterance of a true prophet, within the words of an avatar, inevitably there is a shower of the seeds of light. But whether we connect with those seeds of light is not dependent upon the doctrines we adopt, the hypotheses we prefer, the viewpoints we are conditioned into through education or the persuasion of any social pressure. So what does it all come down to? We are confused. The first thing is, here is confusion. I am confusion. No point in pretending anything else. It's not a question of I am confusion, but I am confusion. And what then? What is confusion? Confusion is chaos. We ache because we are chaos. We are chaos, and sadly we look around and we see only chaos everywhere. One of the creative things about the confusion of our time is that increasingly those that in the past we might have supposed could shed some light on our path are now clearly demonstrating really they don't know nothing about nothing. They've been to school. They may have a degree in divinity. What do they know about the divine? What is the divine? What is consciousness? What are we? What is this chaos? Why does it exist? Why does life itself throw up this experience? What is it to us? All the studies of all the great revealed scriptures all the marvellous parables inherent in inspired literature, all the marvellous encounters we may have with works of art that surely were not born on this earth, but have their origin in the light. All these experiences are prompts, are indicators that there is a something beyond which gives birth to what is not confusion, what is not chaos. You know, the ancient Greeks borrowed, apparently, quite heavily from two sources, from Egypt and from India. The ancient Greeks, in their wise observations, recognized there was this human condition of chaos, and that chaos exists in the universe, and therefore it exists in the human psyche, and the human psyche is part of the whole. But its opposite is cosmos. Cosmos is the true state, the true condition. And in nature, our experience of chaos, our experience of what ought not to be, our encounter with pain, is nature prompting our understanding that we must look through and beyond our malfunctioning and perceive what is the true condition, what and where and how is cosmos. Now, it's quite interesting that this word cosmos probably derives from an ancient Hindu view. Ratam means approximately, well, from it we get our word rightness. Which of course is righteousness. Ratam equals cosmos equals the true state of being, the true state of equilibrium. And it requires no great profundity to perceive that this is indeed very close, must be very close, to what the ancient Chinese spheres perceived as the Tao. Now, of course, promptings to our understanding exist in all the ancient stories. And these promptings to our understanding mean promptings to the comprehension of what is a human being. What am I? We're many things. We're a naked ape. I don't deny it. But if we look at the full spectrum of human evolution, a human being is anything between barbarian and Buddha. And what is Buddha? The apex of evolution, so far as this planet is capable of comprehending it. Now, in this context, we could also pick up on something else. That curiously, interestingly, in the translation into Chinese of the Gospel of St. John, the opening words are, as you know, in the beginning was the Logos, and the Logos was with God, and the Logos was God. The divine is indivisible from the light, the uncreated light from which all things emerge. And the light is indivisible from what we can only presume to say is its audial dimension. In the beginning was the Logos, and the Logos was with God, and the Logos was God. And the Logos became flesh and pitched his tent among us, full of grace and truth. Now, in the Chinese translation, in the beginning was the Tao. The true state, the true balance, the true being. Expressing itself from itself to itself and returning unto itself. We are all of that. When the word goes forth, it is, of course, as all things are, vibration. And the light is the light of consciousness. And the consciousness is the all-sustaining sound, the Udgita, that interpenetrates, it is said, every atom of existence. Divine word. Man exists not by bread alone, but by every word that issues from the mouth of the divine. What is this divine utterance? It is the outbreath of the light. That which proceeds from the light, from its primal source, from that unimaginable compression of cosmic power that explodes and becomes the infinite vibration that sustains all things, that is the going forth, that is the departing from the primal power into ever denser levels of vibration. So that what happens through this process of densification is involution. And in nature there is no such thing as a straight line, and all things will return to their starting point, and all created beings will ultimately be reabsorbed into that divine and all-sustaining source. You may say, you said you were an agnostic. Now you're playing with hypotheses. The hypotheses that we are playing with, if you like to see it that way, are, I believe, a legitimate representation of what is cognizable as the essential vitality inherent in a human being. And therefore, in the collective psyche of mankind and of the earth, and of the earth and of the cosmos, involution densifies, reaches an extreme and returns back upon its source, the great circle, the great cycle, and then is set in motion. Evolution. Both evolution and involution exist within the human being. We are evolving entities. But also within us, we are the incarnating light. If the human being senses this dynamic within its own being, it will sense the meaning of becoming and the meaning of transcending, and why nature is prompting us as an evolutionary necessity to know more in terms of becoming more. We only know more when we become more, in a real sense. We only become more in terms of consciousness. Now, what is this consciousness? Consciousness is everywhere. Consciousness permeates every living thing, and we've only to watch any living thing to perceive it has consciousness. But consciousness also permeates all in nature, that with our limited vision we also interpret as inanimate matter. There is no inanimate matter. Everything is life. All is a manifestation of incarnate light. And all things are sustained by the Udgita, the unifying word. Ramana always spoke with great simplicity. He was asked once about suffering. And he said, suffering turns men towards their Creator. Now that was a translation of what he said in the Tamil language. It would be legitimate to say that on the lips of Ramana, an obvious paraphrase would be, suffering inclines human consciousness to attune itself to the uncreated light. Now, what does all this mean? What is consciousness? What is awareness? Consciousness is everywhere, we've just said so. We are conscious. Are we not? Are we conscious? At least one of us is nodding ahead. Are we conscious? We may look down at a beetle and say, oh, poor little thing. It doesn't really experience. It's hardly conscious. A Buddha might look down at us and say, oh, poor little thing. It doesn't really experience. It's barely conscious. What does all this mean? Where do we come to? Nature is the revealer. Nature is the teacher. Nature is the guide. Nature is that which fosters, upholds, and determines, and makes inevitable the evolution of consciousness, the evolution of ourselves. Now, what is awareness? Consciousness is energy, because all life is energy. What is awareness? Awareness means surely I know that I am conscious. Does it not? Is that not what awareness is? I am aware that I'm conscious. But that is a limited perception. A very limited perception. The psyche is split when the psyche identifies, I know that I am aware. There is the I, and there is the fact of awareness. There is no full fusion between the two. We are truly aware when we know. Now this is a paradox, because you can ask, what is the knower and where is the knower? We are only truly aware when there is only the cognition of awareness. When there is the cognition of awareness, unimpeded by the conditioning implications of the I. The conditioning implications of the I are, obviously, I'm limited, I know my limitations, I know the way things ought to be and the way things ought to be seen, and much agitation circles around all that when we try to be aware of anything. If we are truly aware, there is only awareness. An unimpeded flow of awareness. Consciousness without filter. Consciousness without center. Only a flow of life. We are by our nature life in limitation. But we are also equally and even more truly life in potentiality. We are the seed. We are the embryo. We are the beginnings. We are the opening out. Now, nature is the teacher. Anything we learn that may be worth learning, anything we know that may be worth knowing, comes to us as a shock. A shock is not always painful. A shock, indeed, can be ecstatic, benign, glorious. But anything we need to know, we shall know. And nature is the revealer. And we are the vessel of nature's revelation. So, we are disturbed. There is pain. There is pain because there is limitation. Nature is urging us to look through and beyond that limitation. Why is nature doing this? Why are we prompted to ask questions of this kind? What is asking the question? That which is asking the question is that sense of self that says, I'm in pain. I need to find a way out. This sense of limitation that knows itself to be painfully constricted, that knows itself to be in need of healing. This limited self has identified a pressure made upon it to realize what is already immanent in its understanding. The mind that asks the question on the relative level, on the conscious level, so-called, is the same mind that already knows, already perceives. And this higher being, this Buddhic level of ourselves, is radiating downwards onto our conscious level and forcing the asking of questions. Because the needing to know becomes the other part of this equation. The needing to know becomes the invocation that brings down the light that is the healing power. The little self is prompted to open out into that which is beyond its tiny dimensionality. The limited self is being prompted to diminish so that, here is the paradox, it may become more. The limited self is being prompted by all the thrusts of experience to let go of its own limitations, to let go of its own little self, its false meanderings, its foolish meanings, its absurd pursuits, and realize that human consciousness itself is the gateway to a glory unimaginable to our disturbed little ego. Unimaginable. Within ourselves there is the density of the earth. Within ourselves there is the uncreated light. Within ourselves there is the potentiality for the life flow to channel the all-sustaining, healing light, and also to channel the resurrected fruitfulness of our earthly level offered up as a sacrifice to be consumed, transformed and consumed within that light that gave it birth. What do we have to do? There is no shortage of those who would tell us we need this or that therapy. We need this or that process of training. We need to do this or that routine of exercises. We need to believe this, this or this. We need to believe nothing. We only need to be ourselves. We only need to be what nature, in all its sublime purposes, intends for our unfolding, for our becoming. We are the problem. We are the limitation. We are the uncreated light from which all things have emanated. We are that which must be sacrificed and transmuted for our true state to be realized. And we are also the sacrificer. We are all these things. What is faith? Faith is not the absurdity of belief in the unprovable. Faith is not the assertion of the unknowable. Faith is awareness. When there is awareness, inevitably, life is. And life is knowing itself, being itself, exulting in itself. We need only to be still, to find a moment or two, or longer, here and there, to be still. And let the reverberations of our conditioned state die down. Those reverberations will diminish as we ourselves allow awareness of what is to awaken in our comprehension, to allow the flow of life in the subtlest sense to be. We need to be still And in this stillness there needs to be poise. There needs to be a gentle equilibrium of our breathing. We need to know that the power inherent in the breath is a channel for the uncreated light that is ourselves as we become, and is ourselves as we potentially are. We need to be merely aware, receptive, believing nothing, asserting nothing. Just allowing the light of life to awaken in our breathing, in our thinking, in our body, in our subconsciousness. And as this happens, everything will appear very different. We will know true aloneness, meaning, this is the paradox, aloneness is all oneness. This aloneness, which is all oneness, has no fear. And within it, there is the liquidation of limitation and all the pains of limitation. When the heart is heavy, it is because the heart needs to sing. And the heart will sing when we sit and allow our deeper being, our true state, which is already immanent there, is already the wisdom, the healing force, and all the compassion that pulses through nature. Our only notion of ourselves need be, we are the child of life. And life will carry us to our destiny, which is imminent, which is in truth here and now. So, if we let awareness happen, we let faith happen, and in so doing, there is no death. There is only the knowing of life, rejoicing with itself, We are the child of life that dances and sings in the waters of the uncreated light.